Hello, Targar friends. Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it is time for another Orc Mode workout. Today was Max Effort Bench Press Day. But just a quick reminder for those of you who watch these vlogs every day, please click like down below. I say this every day and tons of you guys watch, and most of you still don't click it. It would be appreciated if you did to help me keep the likes higher than the dislikes. So today, again, bringing the strength back up after my shoulder inflammation, which I've been rehabbing for 2 months. And it seems like I've got a bunch of people asking in the comments, hey, well, how did that happen? It's like, well, we've been talking about it for months, guys. It was pull-ups. It's a reason I don't do pull-ups anymore. I've got videos coming later, some in the past already discussing imbalances we get from some of that. I'm going to be focusing on row variations, right? I don't care about pull-ups anymore. Or chin-ups. Not going to do them. They're not necessary for me. And again, look how far back it set me. I mean, I close grip benched 352 2 months ago. Same workout, did a bunch of rows with, or ring pull-up, whatever. You guys know what I'm talking about. You guys can go watch the workout. The safest form of pull-up, supposedly by every expert out there, totally destroyed my shoulders for 2 months, or my right shoulder. So, I've had to do tons of rehab, tons of mobility, all that stuff, but we continue to bench and do triceps and still train heavy. It's just that there's been some chest and delt strength regression. Fortunately, triceps have stayed strong. So, ramping this up, I didn't want to get ultra aggressive because what do we know? I don't tend to be able to lock much more weight than my maxes against heavy bands on benching. And for people who've trained with heavy bands, they know why. They understand. And those bands are pulled relatively tight. So honestly, I was happy with this. I know it's only 272, and people are like, you've benched 352 with this same bar. Yep. But 65 pounds of bands. And keeping in mind, guys, the bands, people are thinking, oh, that's 65 pounds at the top, right? Actually, probably 50% of the lift. Okay, so if you're watching it, right about there, that's the full 65 pounds of the bands before that sticking point. And then we hit kind of my tricep sticking point. And we know triceps have been a weak link, but honestly, I felt a lot of chest on this. Felt a lot of chest today. So also in keeping with what I'm doing, the floor press for volume seems to be really instrumental in getting that old PR before, so we're going to build the floor press back up. Notice I've said already, I've noticed I don't always grip it well on the floor press, and so to force myself to grip it tighter, which seems to give me a much better bar path, especially with wide grip, I'm not using the wrist wraps, because it's not heavy weight, and it reinforces that I have to squeeze the bar extra tight. And I want people to notice as I'm doing these, my knuckles are pointed up. My knuckles are pointed up, and I'm bringing it low down on the chest and not letting it drift above my face. Okay, that's important. But the good news is we're regaining strength on this. I'm not where I was, but 205, which I could only do like 9 reps with the other day, so then I dropped down to the 185, but I managed to get 15 on speed day. So I went up to 205. Got in my groove with these, and I feel like strength will come back fast on these. Goal, let's set a goal. 225 for 15. That'll be a goal. When I get to 225 for 15 on this, I know that I will have a bench PR. So, again, 20-pound jump, still got good reps. And when I get up to 225 for at least 10s, I'll keep 225 on there and just keep pushing volume or swap bars until we get 225 for higher reps with multiple bars. It's going to be the way I do these. But I got 12, and then I managed to get 13. Final set 13, because it seems like I need to get into my groove a little bit. Again, trying to find that sweet spot for the bar path, gripping it right. But I'm doing these very, very wide, and I normally train narrow, and the reason for that, these are easy on the shoulders for wide grip, because we don't quite hit that very bottom inch. There's no way to sink it into the chest. It's still fine for not inflaming the shoulders. Now, people could argue you could probably do the same thing on a flat bench with a one board. Right, I could. And that will be an option later. Okay, that will be an option. If I want to train the wide grip, people say, well, why the wider grip? Because I need more chest. Now, we know that my triceps tend to be the weak link on my benching. Right, they tend to be the weak link on lifts that I barely miss, or maxes where I grind. But I still need to get the chest stronger because I'm super explosive off the bottom with close grip benching. That's because of delts and my lats and everything else. So I need to get the pecs bigger and stronger. And triceps. Pecs and triceps. Pecs and triceps. So we're going to address both. Triceps are still going to be a slightly higher priority because this is how we avoid shoulder injuries. Okay? Something to be aware of. If your delts overpower your triceps, we get some wonky bar paths that can predispose us to shoulder injuries. So ideally, your triceps need to always be stronger than the other muscles. So they're going to get an ultra high priority, but we are still going to do chest. That means floor pressing, that means flies. But every workout, we're going to do 2 different tricep movements. We're going to try to do a bigger movement and a smaller movement. So we'll do a JM press, and in this case, a skull crusher. I'll do variations of them as necessary. And then I do band work for my triceps, just because of the potential for tendon inflammation. We have that potential for tendon inflammation because of the nature of the movements I'm doing at the moment. So I'm doing all my restoration work in a later workout on my 2 upper body days. And I'm largely leaving my upper body alone, other than I'm doing rowing on all 4 days. So I still get a slight upper body bias in terms of my main training, and then most of my restoration days tend to be lower body. What do I do for those? What do people mean by restoration? I do sled drags, reverse hypers, ab work. I probably need to start incorporating more grip work on those. Today I'm going to go really easy on grip because I have to deadlift tomorrow. So I'm being very careful of what I do. Tomorrow's max effort deadlift day. So the day before, I'm not going to use stuff that's going to beat my grip up too much, or my low back. But the JM presses were good. I did 15 on my sets for these, so 5 by 15. Actually, the first set was only 13 because it felt getting in my groove, and then the final set I was able to squeeze out 17. So it ends up being averaging 15. Counted as 5 by 15. I need to start micro-loading this up now. Okay? Need to start adding it up. And if I stall, we go to a variant. We do reverse bands. We do chains. I could change to the axle bar. This is going to be a primary tricep builder. And for those who don't understand, again, occasionally when I do these, someone will chime in and say, well, I thought you were supposed to touch your chest on the bench. This isn't a bench press. If you think this is a bench press, you do not know how to bench. My elbows are tucked and my forearms are coming all the way up over my face. Okay. Notice how much bend is happening in the forearm there. I mean, this angle, I guess it doesn't show as much, but my forearms are like 45 degrees bent at the bottom. So again, this is a tricep movement that happens to be a multi-joint exercise, but the triceps do the most work. You'll feel the triceps the most on this movement. There's some delt and pec involvement, but they're not really being worked to any sort of real fatigue. Right? And then we'll do more tricep work later, smaller movements. Because any muscle that's truly a weak link is going to get some single joint exercises. Okay? So all my arm stuff, I do extensions and curls both days. Okay? Sometimes I do some band pull aparts after also. 5 by 15 on these with this weight, so we'll keep moving up. And I'm trying to keep the form stricter because I've gotten to where you guys have seen me do heavier weight, but it's like I feel like the form gets wonky, so I'm going to just micro load it up. We're going to add micro plates and see if we can get to 15s. You know? And while keeping the form tight. What do I mean by the form tight? Those elbows tuck. Those elbows need to tuck in at the bottom so that it's a tricep dominant exercise and the anterior deltoids don't start taking over. And we did the flies, used the same weight as last time, but today we got a little bit more reps. I got 16 on every set but the last set. And I only got like 13 to 15, I think, last time. Now, keeping in mind the chest was more fatigued today because we PR'd the floor pressing again. And PR means do this rotation. It's not the best floor pressing I've ever had. But coming back from rehabbing the shoulder, it has been. So we need to keep on that moving forward. So if we gain anything on the flies, the fact that I picked up a rep on each set for the flies is a PR for me because we PR'd on a heavier chest exercise first. Now, people will look at some of that and be like, why are you only doing like 3 sets on the big movement and more work on the smaller movements? Good question. Because it's max effort day, and we don't want too much big movement volume. All right, we do so much squatting, benching, deadlifting, good mornings, all this stuff on this system, even with especially with all the speed work added in the max work. It's a recovery issue. We need enough of these big supplemental lifts to build the muscles in the way that we want and to get the joint angle specificity for carryover to big lifts. And the floor press does that. But we don't have to train them into the ground. We then use smaller movements within our recovery ability to build up all the other weak links. Okay? Does it make sense? But I'm not beating up my wrist, elbows, and shoulders by trying to do limitless sets of floor pressing. We come in and do smaller variations, keep our overuse injuries down, keep our inflammation down, but we are hitting the muscles that need to be worked in new ways. So again, my pecs and triceps need a ton of meat added to them. They both need to come up dramatically if I am ever going to have an elite bench. It's a requirement, and I have to get them there through any means necessary. And if we can handle the higher volumes of the smaller movements, we do that. But we can't beat our recovery up with the big barbell movements. We can't, because I'm maxing and doing speed work on barbell stuff already every week. So we need just enough to stimulate the response that we want. And notice I'm even doing higher and higher reps with most of those. Okay, we don't see anything under 10 reps anymore, even on my secondary barbell movements. Some of them are 15 and 20. Okay. Focusing on building muscle. And even if it's a movement like that, people say, but if it's a lightweight, how does it carry over to the big lift, even on a accessory movement like that, or an assistance movement? Because we're still hypertrophying the joint angle specificities. And when we talk about, well, maximizing tension, we're already getting that from the max work. Okay, we're getting the intramuscular coordination from the max work, and keeping in mind, it may not seem like a lot of max work, but on this system we do maxes year round. We maintain intramuscular coordination year round because we max out on 2 lifts every single week, year round. So we're always maxing out twice a week. So we're building our intramuscular coordination there. So as long as we're hypertrophying the muscles that we want and getting some specificity with that hypertrophy in terms of joint angles and movement patterns, and in this case, again, like 3 sets of floor press, that'll give me the movement pattern. 3 sets of the good mornings, because we know the good morning carries over to the movement pattern of the back squat and the deadlift, right? You know that, right? All right. So then we went over to Skullcrushers. These are hard to do as many. A lot of times people were like, well, weren't you doing 5 sets of these? Yeah, I was doing like 5 by 12 with this weight. Now I'm up to 15, but I run out of steam real quick because I've done JM presses. I'm not used to doing a JM press and a Skullcrusher in the same workout like I have been recently with these. I need to get used to it. So because I've done 5 JM presses, I start really running out of steam. Around set 3 on these, they start to get really hard. Like my 15 reps by the 3rd set was definitely a limit set. I did not have a 16th rep. We get over to the 4th set, and I think I got like 13, and it's just like, that's it. It's all I could do. So I realized if I did one more rep, the bar was just going to hit me in the forehead. Right? It would be a true skull crusher. I knew it on the rep before because it was grindy and it was hard. So we're within a rep of failure. But again, having done that on 2 different tricep movements, we got a lot of tricep work. And then I'll hit them with bands later too. So we end up with 8 sets of 15 on 2 different movements. Okay. Keeping in mind, we'll train triceps twice a week. That's a lot of tricep work. Not counting our big movements, any of our pressing. That's essentially at this point around 8 solid working sets twice a week. That's 16 sets. But then I do the band work later for really high reps. Okay, I'll do at least 3 sets. We're really exceeding 20 sets a week through the different rep ranges. So again, I can only get away with training triceps twice a week because I am taking them to pretty much to their limits. Because this set pretty much represents my work capacity threshold has been hit. Like at this point, I can't even complete the sets anymore with this weight for the same number of reps. Triceps are trashed. I've reached their work capacity limit. That's usually when you know you're at a volume that's all you can handle. So even then, I separate food and rest between doing the band work later in the day. Okay? And even then it'll have 3 days in between before triceps get hit again, because they'll need the recovery. But pecs and triceps, big priority. Then I did some stuff different today, and it's made me rethink what I'm doing with my grip work. Like, let me do my inverted rows today with the normal bar, with the grip that I know I can do the most volume with. I got set to 20. One of these, I think the third set, it was only 18 or something because I did too short of a break. But then I spread the breaks out to a couple minutes, and the last couple sets I managed to get 20. We get sets of 20. I've been doing 15 with the axle bar, and I still felt the grip train. My forearms got a pump. But my back, the extra 5 reps made such a difference in what I felt in my back. So by doing the axle bar, I have been limiting my back to some extent. I'm going to have to resolve that. It might be the case of me only doing the axle bar on my squat and deadlift days. Might be the case of doing this on all 4 days and just adding extra axle bar work and just putting more and more grip training on my off days. But I am thinking I'm probably going to need to start working in axle bar deadlifts at the very least on all my max effort days. Okay? I'm going to have to. I've got to get the axle bar grip work in because it seems to do more than anything else, more than even my pinch blocks do. I've got to do my pinch work. I'm going to have to just keep hammering the grip however I can, but I can't neglect my back for it. I've been doing that for a little while, and it's helped with my grip. My grip's improving, I think. We'll find out tomorrow. But, we've got to build everything, too. So there's that balancing act. And it might be a case of I might have some days where I do the axle bar. And I think from a grip perspective, especially if we want to have grip that carries over to the deadlift, maybe the axle bar deadlifts will be the way to go. And then I can focus on, again, building my whole middle and upper back more. Because again, I felt way more work. More work being done. More work being done. And for those curious, yes, I'm actually spreading the scapula at the bottom. So I'm actually actively doing that and rolling my shoulders a little bit forward to get scapular protraction. So we are working that lat completely through that range of motion. And that's the full range of motion of my lat. Some people be like, well, why doesn't your chest touch? Because my shoulder blades are pinched together. Okay, that's it. Keep in mind, I have really long arms. I think people forget that. My wingspan is several inches longer than my height. I've measured it. So that's one reason I'm good at deadlifting and not so great at bench. But in this case, when I come up there, that my scapular are completely retracted. They're completely retracted. And I think that's one reason when I do closed grip benching, I get really good pop out of the bottom. It's not because my chest is strong. It's because my back pops the weight up. Because I'm pretty much compressing my lats and everything at that point. So by the time I touch my chest, I've already reached my full range of motion for my back, and it's all pinched in and everything gets bunched together, and I can use it to pop the weight. So people who say silly stuff like lats don't matter on a raw bench press, that's stupid. Really? You must have really small lats then. Because when you bunch them up together, they have to pop back apart. And if you're compressing the weight down into them and squeezing them together, it creates like a little bit of a spring effect there. What I've decided to do with the upright rows, I've been doing them all days. I'm like, I really don't need them all days. If I get enough volume, I'm good. Let's stick to upper body days being the upper body. And we'll just do rows and things on the others. Because I'm going to have to do some more T-spine stuff anyways on lower days. And I'll get into that later. I think we'll see it coming up next week. I'm probably going to have to mess with the safety bar more. I need to just max on it, establish a max again, and as much as I hate that safety bar, I think I need to run some waves of speed work with it. And I'll explain why I get away with it down the road. I think because I'm doing enough other quad work, I'm not worried about losing quad strength on the speed work from the bar that forces me to use less weight due to upper back limits. Because I'm doing step-ups and sled drags every week, it'll be fine. I think it'll be fine. So we balance everything out with the supplemental work and GPP. But so I'm doing 6 sets of these, and I increased the weight slightly. I realized with the axle bar last time I can do a hair more weight, so I took the weight up another 5 pounds, keeping them as strict as possible, and I got 6 sets of 15. Having to do some rest pause to get there, but we did get there. So again, super strict, very wide grip. We're stopping at the low chest. This is how we do this exercise without injuring our shoulders. And it feels good on my shoulders, even having gone through having to rehab them and everything. So it's good. It's a fantastic entire shoulder girdle developer. It works all 3 heads of the delt. And my side delts need the most work, and it's phenomenal for them. Works the upper trap, possibly some middle trap. So at least the whole shoulder girdle, and which is part of the upper back, all that ties in together. So a lot of the muscles of the shoulder girdle are considered to be upper back. Well, we need all of it. So the rowing of both types contributes, just in different areas with higher emphasis. But this will build my shoulders up. This is what we need to do. It's one reason I'm not worried about doing any overhead pressing or anything right now. In fact, overhead pressing puts more work on my low back and spinal compression. This lighter thing with this doesn't. So again, my back can recover and I can focus on tons of reverse hypers for it. And again, this will handle a shoulder girdle development. But if I do 6 sets instead of 5 twice a week, that gives me 12 total sets of direct shoulder work, really. And considering the amount of pressing and other rowing I'm doing with 20 sets of inverted rows, my rear delts and traps and everything are getting a lot of work. 12 sets a week of this, that's plenty. And if, again, I have other options, if I need to rotate movements, I could try the axle bar again. I could consider putting a light chains over it to change the curve. Okay, so we get around accommodation and overuse by rotating movements, which is going to come up in a minute. People are going to ask, why are you doing those curls today? Just to change it up. You know, I'm going to do a really narrow grip, easy bar curl, and it's a little heavier than what I normally do on my other curls, and so I only got 15s. But I do a couple sets and I quit because my biceps are trashed. I got a lot more lat and bicep pump today doing the straight bar because I was able to get more reps. So my biceps technically got more work, so did my lats than they have been getting. And then the 6 sets of this instead of 5, because I get a bicep and forearm pump to some extent doing this, even though I feel way more shoulder. They do get involved, especially after rowing. So my biceps were pretty fatigued. They just didn't have much left. They were kind of cramping and hurting. But I wanted to change it up, again, to avoid some overuse. And just to do something slightly different, I'm going to deadlift tomorrow. So I was thinking, well, I don't want to get the extra forearm work from the axle bar for these. So I'm just doing a narrow grip on this. And again, it's just a different angle. Narrow grip does do really well on brachialis and stuff in the EMG studies. So people will say, what's the advantage of this? The advantage is that I'm doing a different exercise. That's the advantage. And people forget that with a lot of what we do. It's not that they're special. It's that we are changing movement patterns slightly to avoid overuse, especially when we're training with really high volumes. That's a very good idea. Variation to avoid overuse. So again, I only did the 2 sets of it, and then I was pretty well done. Like, my biceps are done. They don't really, their work capacity is pretty well trashed. And if I do these again next time, I'll drop to a lighter weight so that I can rep it out for more. But good workout, happy with everything, all things considered. I mean, the bench could have been heavier, but we're coming back. It's decent, actually, considering where I was a couple weeks ago. We'll be back to PR soon. Everything is coming along with the rehab. Shoulders feeling good. We've just got to rebuild the strength with the correct exercises and keep moving forward. So I hope it has been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.